Chapter 4091. The young man's impulsiveness made Feng Wuyin feel helpless, but he had no reason to stop all of this. After all, they weren't wrong. They were using the right method to help Su Yun resolve his pain. Feng Wuyin didn't say anything else. He believed that when Yumerin realized that the closer she got to Su Yun, the more pain Su Yun was in, she would naturally understand what he meant. Let nature take its course. Yumerin stepped forward and gently hugged Su Yun. She used a soft voice to comfort Su Yun's emotions. "It's me. We're all here. We're all safe. Everyone's fine. All the troubles have been resolved. We're going home now." Feng Wuyin originally thought that Su Yun's emotions would explode, but to his surprise, when Yumerin comforted Su Yun alone, Su Yun actually calmed down. After Su Yun calmed down, Bai Xiaoye happily walked forward impatiently. However, before she could reach Su Yun's side, Su Yun once again struggled in pain. Zhua Meiyan quickly went forward and pulled Bai Xiaoye behind. "Don't go over. He seems to only calm down when he's facing her." Although there was a hint of jealousy in her words, now was not the time to be jealous. Zhua Meiyan knew that Su Yun's safety was the most important thing now. After Bai Xiaoye retreated, Su Yun's mood became much better. This surprised Bai Xiaoye. "What's going on? I'm your biological sister. You're not even willing to get close to your biological sister? Then why did she? Big sister, you and our boss are childhood sweethearts." Qian Feng gestured to his waist with his hand as he explained, "They've known each other since they were this tall. Their relationship is naturally incomparable to that of ordinary people." "That's right. Although you're our boss's biological sister, you've only known each other for a few days." Hua Xiaolu smiled. "That's why only sister you can settle this." Bai Xiaoye looked at the two helplessly. "Whatever, as long as my brother doesn't suffer so much." In fact, there was a reason why Su Yun could be so quiet beside Yumerin. As for the reason, no one knew. Even Su Yun and Yumerin would never have guessed that the reason why Su Yun's inner demon could be so quiet beside Yumerin was that night when Su Yun was with her. That day, Su Yun's consciousness was a little blurry, but it was an undeniable fact that the two of them had an intimate relationship. And it was at that time that Su Yun's demonic nature and evil aura had invaded Yumerin's body to a certain extent. Therefore, when Yumerin appeared beside Su Yun, that familiar feeling calmed Su Yun's inner demon. This was also completely unexpected. Even Feng Wuyin didn't expect that someone would be able to calm Su Yun's inner demons. This was really too lucky for Su Yun. He could completely rely on the calmness when facing Yumerin to suppress the inner demon in his heart and completely destroy the power of the inner demon. And this time, Su Yun's inner demon had absorbed so much evil aura. If Su Yun could still defeat it, then Su Yun's strength would also soar. It was no exaggeration to say that if Su Yun could defeat Feng Wuhan's inner demon, then his strength could even directly surpass the sky-profound realm and reach the peak of the incomparable realm. This was not impossible. Although it sounded exaggerated, reality was used to change. Perhaps many people did not believe that such a thing would happen, but this was the truth. Incredible things had always happened to Su Yun, so it was not strange for such incredible things to happen to him. Su Yun's emotions became calmer and calmer. Feng Wuyin was sure that this was the process of the inner demon gradually weakening. When his inner demon was weak to the point where Su Yun could easily reverse his control, Su Yun would be able to completely defeat the inner demon. At this time, Yumerin did not know that she was so useful to Su Yun. She only hoped that Su Yun would no longer be in pain. If this method could make Su Yun no longer suffer, she was willing to let Su Yun rest on her lap and hug him like this for the rest of her life. With Su Yun's condition stabilized, everyone's hearts also relaxed by a large chunk. Now, Su Chen did not go out to see the situation above because he was guarding against Feng Wuhan. He was worried that Feng Wuhan would stand up and attack again. After all, this guy had done this countless times. Of course, this time, it was really impossible for him. After the mood at the scene relaxed, everyone let out a sigh of relief. Because of the fierce battle, everyone's clothes were tattered, and everyone had more or less suffered some superficial wounds. 4 hot-blooded and impulsive guys like Lin Gur and Qian Feng, Their clothes were almost tattered to the point that they could not be worn anymore. Lin Gu simply tore off his clothes and threw them away. Those who could still wear their clothes could not help but laugh. And those whose clothes were tattered to the point that they could barely cover their bodies also tore off their clothes and threw them away like Lin Gu. Bu Fifan was the same. The back of his clothes was directly torn by an undead guard, making it look like an apron. He simply took it off. Moreover, young people always had some thoughts. He also wanted to compare his muscles with Su Yun's brothers in the Dragon Fury team. He wanted to see if Dragon's Fury's muscles were stronger or if the people from the Hunter Academy's muscles were stronger. However, after Bu Fifan tore off his clothes and threw them away, half of a tattoo on his back was revealed. When Feng Wuyin saw that half of the tattoo, he was stunned. He gently patted Feng Wuhan, and Feng Wuhan's gaze fell on Bu Fifan's tattoo, and he was speechless. In this world, one could wear out iron shoes in a fruitless search, only to find what one was looking for without any effort. Although only half of the tattoo on Bu Fifan's back was an unfinished work, it was definitely the same tattoo on Feng Wuhan's body. Feng Wuhan had this tattoo on his body, and the one on his son's body was personally tattooed by him. Bai Liang, bring him over. Feng Wuin's voice was a little excited. Little Dong Bei looked at Feng Wuin and saw him pointing at Bu Fifan. He was a little confused, but he still pulled Bu Fifan over. Bu Fifan was also confused. Gu Magpie World, Yi Shuai, and the other instructors also looked over. The old man must be looking for you for something. Little Dong Bei brought Bu Fifan to Feng Wuin's side. Senior Feng, you're looking for me? Bu Fifan was puzzled. Is there anything I can do? Feng Wuin shook his head. Turn around and let me see your tattoo. Bu Fifan did not hesitate and directly turned around. I really didn't tattoo this. I don't know what kind of tattoo this is. I've had this since I was young. When I was young, I was a child begging on the street. Maybe I offended the tattoo shop when I was young and didn't know anything. They tattooed me randomly. This is not a random tattoo. Feng Wuin's voice was a little choked up. After saying that, he showed the tattoo on Feng Wuhan's back to Bu Fifan. Do you see this? If your tattoo is completed, it will look like this. This is not a random tattoo. This is the Feng family's totem. Bu Fifan was dumbfounded. What? What totem? Your father is Qiu Luofeng. Feng Wuhan was so excited that he didn't know what to say. Actually, his name should be Feng Luoqiu, so your surname is not Qiu, but Feng. I'm your grandfather. I'm your grandfather. Bu Fifan retorted angrily. Who are you taking advantage of? Go to hell. Feng Wuhan was scolded, but he didn't seem angry at all. He's really your grandfather. This tattoo is the best proof. Feng Wuin's voice trembled. Your father is Qiu Luofeng, the Qiu Luofeng of the Southern Sect. You can't deny this, right? Bu Fifan shook his head in a daze. What can I deny? I don't know Qiu Luofeng at all, and I don't know anything about the Southern Sect. I only know that I was a beggar when I was young. My mother is Yi Fala, and she picked me up. I have this tag on me, and it has my birth date and name written on it. Because he was worried that it would affect him during the battle, Bu Fifan took it off and put it in his pocket when he got off the plane. At this time, he took it out and showed it to Feng Wuin. This is my tag. Do you see it clearly? My name is Bu Fifan, and my surname is Bu. I have nothing to do with Qiu Luofeng or Feng Luoqiu. Don't let him claim relatives for me. Chapter 4092. Bu Fifan took out the tag with his name engraved on it and showed it to everyone. Feng Wuin was stunned when he saw the tag. This tag clearly had nothing to do with the South Sect. He also recognized this tag. It was a pretty item from an organization that used to be quite famous. This organization had also participated in the cleansing of the South Sect. Rumor had it that this organization was destroyed by the South Sect. When Feng Wuin took the tag, his hand trembled slightly. He became agitated again. The part where the name and date of birth were engraved on the tag was clearly thinner than the edge. There was only one possibility. The engraved part had been smoothed out, and new words had been engraved on it. How difficult was it for Chiu Luofeng to slowly climb up from someone who had nothing to do with the South Sect to the leader of the South Sect? The South Sect had existed for so long. There were many deep-rooted aristocratic family members, and none of them were weak. However, in the end, the South Sect fell into the hands of an outsider like Chiu Luofeng. This clearly showed that Chiu Luofeng's ability and methods were not something an ordinary person could compare to. Chiu Luofeng had the ability to go against aristocratic family members and climb to the peak of the South Sect's power. He was scheming and shrewd. These were all necessary conditions. How could such a smart person allow his son to fall into danger with the South Sect? If Feng Wuyin's guess was correct, Chiu Luofeng must have gotten the tag from this destroyed organization. Then, he erased the words on the tag, engraved his son's name, and hung it around his neck. This way, he could save his son's life by pushing him out of the South Sect. This was probably the only way Chiu Luofeng could save his son. Because at that time, Chiu Luofeng was certain that the South Sect would not survive. No matter how powerful an organization was, if the entire underground world wanted to control and annihilate them, it meant that they would not be able to escape no matter how powerful they were. This was like the heavens wanting to destroy him. What could he use to resist? There was no way to resist at all. Under such circumstances, protecting his bloodline was the only thing Chiu Luofeng could do. This was probably why Bu Fifan said that he was just a child begging on the street. After the South Sect was destroyed, no one could take care of him. It was a cleansing that involved all 9 generations. It was good enough that he was still alive. Moreover, Chiu Luofeng had even given him such a tag to conceal his identity for the safety of his bloodline. Nowadays, there was obviously a very realistic thing that existed between the various organizations in the world. When the tree falls, the monkeys scatter. There were many real-life events that went from being bustling like a marketplace to not being cared about. This was very realistic. Bu Fifan was wearing the tag of a destroyed organization. Even if someone recognized him, they wouldn't help him because there was no value or benefit to speak of. That was why Bu Fifan was reduced to begging on the streets when he was young. Fortunately, he was lucky enough to meet Yi Fala. That was the turning point in Bu Fifan's life. If he hadn't met Yi Fala, it was hard to say what he would have become. It was impossible for a beggar on the street to achieve anything with his own ability. After all, whether it was knowledge, temperament, the overall situation, or the past, the street gangsters were very weak. They could not make a big scene at all. Therefore, Yi Fala changed Bu Fifan's life and gave Bu Fifan a new starting point. As for what happened after that, it was all a coincidence. If Yi Fala hadn't brought Bu Fifan home, Su Yun wouldn't have been able to come into contact with him. Everything was fate and coincidence. It was as if everything was destined to happen. You're definitely not the owner of this tag. Feng Wuyin shook his head. With this unfinished tattoo, I can prove who you are. Don't joke with me. Bu Fifan refused to admit it. There are many repetitive tattoo patterns in the tattoo shop. Could it be that the same tattoo belongs to the same bloodline? Are the gangsters behind the second Master Guan all relatives of the same family? Feng Wuyin suddenly raised his head and saw Huang Fu Guo. He was stunned for a moment. Ever since they entered the underground world, Huang Fu Guo seemed to have disappeared. No one on any floor had seen him. The people on the 5th floor thought that he had stayed on the 5th floor, and the people on the 5th floor thought that he had gone to the 5th floor. Because the atmosphere was too tense, no one noticed his whereabouts. Everyone's attention was on the matter in front of them, so it was normal for no one to notice his situation. Actually, Huang Fu Guo had a motive. During the period when he disappeared, he took the blood samples of a few undying guards. He suspected that the undying gods of these people were controlled by some kind of medicine, so his curiosity made him want to conduct some on-site research. However, in the end, he didn't get the results. These undying guards had nothing to do with medicine. Huang Fu Guo's obsession with medicine was quite high. He understood the history of medicine. Generations of Chinese medicine doctors would often use one medicine when saving critically ill patients, and that was ginseng. 30 grams of wild ginseng and its juice could be taken quickly. It could greatly replenish one's vitality, stabilize one's yang, and bring the dead back to life. Ginseng was famous in ancient times. Firstly, it looked like a human's head, hands, feet, and limbs. Secondly, it grew slowly. However, bringing the dead back to life was an exaggeration. There was no way for a dead person to come back to life. But since Huang Fu Guo saw someone who could truly bring the dead back to life, he wanted to know what medicine could do this. Was it yellow quail? Huang Fu Guo had this suspicion in the beginning. In the countryside, this kind of weed was often seen in the gutters. It was called yellow quail, and some people called it the resurrection grass. In fact, it was an annual or biennial herb that grew on hillsides, roadsides, forest edges, and wilderness. It could be found all over Huaxia. The yellow quail's flower looked like a wild chrysanthemum from afar, but it was very similar to a dandelion's flower. Furthermore, it would turn into a fluffy seed like a dandelion. Therefore, it was often mistaken for a dandelion, and it was called the resurrection grass because of a folk legend. Legend had it that yellow quail wouldn't die under the scorching sun, and it would even emit light at night. There was also a saying that eating it could bring the dead back to life. Huang Fu Guo had studied this herb, but it wasn't as magical as the legend said. The yellow quail was called the resurrection grass because of the herb's ability to survive. Even if it was about to be dried in the ground, it could come back to life as long as it came in contact with water. If one picked a bud today, it would be able to sprout a new bud tomorrow. It was because of its extremely strong vitality. However, after seeing the undying guard today, Huang Fu Guo wondered if his research direction was wrong. Could it be that the yellow quail could not only treat herpes zoster and laryngitis? Could it really have a hidden effect in the legends? After studying the undying guard situation, Huang Fu Guo finally gave up. They didn't rely on medicine to bring the dead back to life. After Huang Fu Guo solved his doubts, the situation developed to this point. Feng Wuyin saw Huang Fu Guo and felt that he had a way to solve this problem. Is there any way to solve it? You should ask Wu Qiuzi about this. Maybe she has some indigenous recipe. Huang Fu Guo shook his head. He couldn't solve this matter. Wu Qiuzi also shook her head. It's right to believe in science for this kind of thing. However, I think anyone with common sense should be able to tell that the pattern of this tattoo is definitely not from a tattoo shop. Moreover, this was obviously done when he was very young, so don't talk nonsense. Bu Fifan glared at Wu Qiuzi. He didn't want to be involved with this Feng Wuhan. This bastard was a heinous person. Whether you believe it or not, you must be a member of our Feng family. Feng Wuhan didn't care if Bu Fifan admitted it or not. If it was really him, he would be satisfied with his current situation and could leave in peace. Bu Fifan himself had already fallen into doubt. This was because he remembered that after he became sensible, Yifala had once told him that his tattoo must have a great background. This type of tattoo represented a family inheritance and had a family totem in it. However, Yifala couldn't tell what family's totem culture this was. Therefore, Bu Fifan had never paid attention to it. Now that they were talking about this issue, Bu Fifan recalled what Yifala had said. This made him even more shocked by this fact. Chapter 4093. When this question appeared, most of the people present had a definite answer in their hearts. This pattern was really too special. Moreover, they knew that Feng Wuyin was not a person who would joke around. However, most of them had considered Bu Fifan's inner thoughts, so they did not say anything. However, some people could not consider this point. Bai Liang was one of them. Because his relationship with Feng Wuyin was quite special, the angle from which he considered the problem was different from the angle from which the others present considered the problem. Little Bu, between your eyebrows, you really look like the old man. Bai Liang exclaimed. Feng Wuhan's hair was messy and his face was covered by a beard, but Feng Wuyin was not. Bu Fifan's body flowed with the blood of the Feng family, so it was normal for him to look like Feng Wuyin. Little Dongbei's words shocked everyone. Sometimes, it was really just a sentence. After Bai Liang said it, everyone looked at Bu Fifan and Feng Wuyin more and more. That kind of feeling could not be expressed with words. It was really as simple as resemblance. It went back to the most basic point. At this time, Bu Fifan no longer argued. Even he was stunned by Bai Liang's words. That's right, when he looked at Feng Wuyin, he felt a sense of intimacy. At this moment, he was completely stunned. Everything is the best arrangement of the heavens. Ha 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 ha. Feng Wuhan suddenly raised his head and laughed. At this time, he was very sure of Bu Fifan's identity. To him, this was really the best gift that the heavens had given him before he died. What the predecessors did has nothing to do with you. Even if Feng Wuhan is your grandfather, it's not up to you to make up for his mistakes. Yi Shui was perhaps the only person who knew Bu Fifan better than Su Yun. Now that Su Yun's situation was not good, Yi Shui stood out to comfort Bu Fifan. Of course, there were also people like Lin Gu who did not feel that there was anything wrong with it at all. There's nothing wrong with you being a member of the Feng family. Feng Wuhan is your grandfather, but so is Feng Wuyin. They are both close. There's nothing wrong with that. If you don't want to, you cannot acknowledge Feng Wuhan. It's not a big deal. These words were indeed a great relief for Bu Fifan. He really didn't want to have anything to do with Feng Wuhan. This kind of relationship made him very unhappy. We don't care about blood ties. Gu Magpie comforted Bu Fifan. To us, you will always be a member of the hunter school. No one can change your identity. It went without saying how important this recognition was to Bu Fifan. In the end, the words that moved Bu Fifan were the ones that he didn't want to hear the most. It doesn't matter. You can choose not to acknowledge me. As long as I know that you're fine, that's enough. Feng Wuhan's voice was filled with calmness. He rarely looked at a matter or a problem so calmly in his life. Bu Fifan's eyes fell on this grandfather, whose expression couldn't even be seen. I'm the scum of the Feng clan. It has nothing to do with you. I'm glad that I made the decision back then. Although your father suffered misfortune, you're lucky. You're lucky to know these people. Feng Wuhan's voice was getting calmer and calmer. On the other side, Su Yun, who was lying in Yu Marin's arms, was also getting calmer and calmer. Su Yun's inner demons were getting weaker and weaker as Feng Wuhan, the source of the violent aura, calmed down. Why me? Bu Fifan shook his head and said, I really don't want to have such an identity. I wish so much that I was just an ordinary child. Being an ordinary person is boring. Chen Feng walked up and patted Bu Fifan's shoulder. Don't worry. We all believe that Senior Feng Wuyin is your grandfather. You can completely ignore the person you don't want to acknowledge. Our boss is your godfather, so we're all your uncles. We'll all support you. Bu Fifan was still very young, but he had his own mind and reason. No, the truth is the truth. This is how things are. If it is, then it is. If it is not, then it is not. Bu Fifan said seriously, if he's really my grandfather, even if he's committed a heinous crime, I still have to accept him. After all, he's my grandfather. When Bu Fifan said this, Su Chen, Zhuo Langyue, and the others were even more certain of Bu Fifan's identity. Because his appearance at this time was exactly the same as Feng Wuyin. Feng Wuyin was the same with Feng Wuhan. No matter how heinous Feng Wuhan's crimes were, Feng Wuyin would tolerate it. After all, he was his younger brother. They were family. They were all the bloodline of the Feng family. And now, Bu Fifan said almost the same thing. Feng Wuhan, if I were you, I really feel that I can die with no regrets. Su Chen glanced at Feng Wuhan. You're very happy. Everything is what you want. Feng Wuhan laughed in a low voice. Yes, I've never felt that I've done anything wrong. But this time, I have to admit that God really gave me an ending that will make me ashamed for the rest of my life. How can a person like me deserve to have such a happy life? This is unfair. It's really unfair. God is fair. Feng Wuyin said indifferently, to you, it might be biased, but to the Feng family, this is how it should be. God also wants the bloodline of the Feng family to be passed down. I firmly believe in this. Feng Wuhan wanted to say something, but he suddenly spat out a mouthful of thick blood. Su Yun's heavy attack on him had already caused great damage to his internal organs. If it wasn't for Feng Wuhan's extremely high cultivation, he wouldn't have been able to hold on until now. Su Yun also opened his eyes as Feng Wuhan spat out a mouthful of blood. Su Yun's eyes were bloodshot. Those blood-red eyes filled with hatred gave people a sense of evil that they couldn't look straight at. Everyone became nervous because of Su Yun's reaction. At this time, no one could tell whether Su Yun was good or evil. If Su Yun was Su Yun under the control of the heart demon, there would definitely be a bloody storm here. No one present was his opponent. Even Feng Wuhan, who could deal with Su Chen, the Empress, and the dark revered one by himself, couldn't withstand a single blow from the demonized Su Yun. He was an existence that could fight against 3 elites alone, but he was injured to the point of being on the verge of death by Su Yun. Who else could be a match for Su Yun? The atmosphere suddenly became tense, and the air seemed to slowly solidify. The person who was most worried was undoubtedly Yu Meiren, who was closest to Su Yun. If Su Yun was about to explode, Yu Meiren's life would be in great danger. No one could save her, not even Su Chen. Everyone's hearts were in their throats. Yu Meiren looked straight into Su Yun's eyes without the slightest intention of retreating. She wanted to use her own way to tell Su Yun not to think that she was afraid. She wasn't afraid at all. She wasn't afraid because she believed in him. Yu Meiren used her courage and trust to tell Su Yun, who was still under the control of the heart demon, not to give up resisting and struggling. Su Yun, who had a pair of bloodshot eyes, was very quiet under Yu Meiren's gaze. He just looked at Yu Meiren's resolute eyes. Even though he wanted to vent all the violence in his body, Su Yun did not do anything for a long time. He just lay quietly in Beauty Yu's arms, just like when he was in a short coma after the pain. The air was so quiet that it was suffocating. I'm most afraid of the sudden silence in the air. I'm most afraid of a friend's sudden concern. I'm most afraid of the sudden rolling and twisting pain of my memories. I'm most afraid of suddenly hearing news about you. If there's a voice when I miss you, I don't want it to be a sad cry. Now that things have come to this, I finally belong to myself. Only tears are left. I can't deceive myself. I suddenly miss you so much. Where will you be happy or wronged? I suddenly miss you so much. Suddenly sharp memories. My suddenly blurry eyes. Yu Meiren softly hummed this song that belonged to the two of them. About 10 years ago, when this May Day song came out, they were still at the age of first awakening of love. Su Yun and Yu Meiren sang this song together for the first time. How could Su Yun not feel it when she sang this song now? Chapter 4094. Amidst the tense atmosphere, the beautiful singing continued. Even the demonic Su Yun had a faint intoxication on his face. The singing calmed Su Yun down a lot. Yes, it calmed the demonic Su Yun down a lot. Although those eyes filled with violence and evil made people tremble, Su Yun didn't do anything excessive. He just lay quietly on Yu Meiren's body. Yu Meiren believed that Su Yun could hear her. Even if Su Yun was completely controlled by his inner demon, she still believed that Su Yun could hear her. He must be able to hear her. We're like the most beautiful song, turning into 2 sad movies. Why did you take me through the most unforgettable journey, and leave the most painful souvenirs? We were so sweet, so beautiful, so trusting, so crazy, so passionate in the past. Why did we still have to run towards our own happiness and regret? Yu Meiren's singing continued. Su Yun's lips suddenly opened slightly. Although his voice wasn't loud, everyone could hear it. That's right, Su Yun was also humming this song. I suddenly miss you so much. Where would you be? Happy or wronged? I suddenly miss you so much. Suddenly sharp memories. Suddenly blurry eyes. Su Yun's blood-red eyes actually had tears in them. A man doesn't cry easily. Su Yun had always believed in this sentence. Lin Ge was the first among everyone to smile. He didn't know why he was so moved, but he was really happy at this moment. Because Su Yun was singing this song, it meant that his consciousness was still there. The inner demon didn't completely control Su Yun. Su Yun still had hope. Lin Ge firmly believed that nothing could defeat his brother Yun. The excited Lin Ge couldn't help but sing in his heart. It was just that he couldn't make a sound to disturb Su Yun. Otherwise, he would have already sung at the top of his lungs. Who's singing? Warm the loneliness. White clouds leisurely, blue sky still drifting with tears. Living alone in that vast expanse of emptiness. He saw the bright fireworks in the distant kingdom of heaven. Yo yo yo. The excitement in Lin Ge's heart was representative of the vast majority of people. After all, they were genuinely concerned about Su Yun. If Su Yun were to turn into a demon, they were not worried about themselves, but about Su Yun's safety. At this time, friendship was the most precious. Everyone was praying for Su Yun in their hearts, hoping that Su Yun could overcome his inner demons. The only thing that Su Yun needed to do now was to defeat his inner demons and regain his sense of self and everything that belonged to him. Far away in Qingdao, Ruan Qingshuang woke up early this morning. She was a little excited because she especially wanted to eat sour food in the morning. She didn't go to the Su family's restaurant to drink sweet foam for breakfast. Instead, she went to the wonton shop on Yunshao Road and ordered a bowl of wonton. When she was eating wonton, Ruan Qingshuang added a lot of vinegar. It was very sour, but it tasted very good to her. There was a saying in Huaxia, sour boys and spicy girls. It was one of the most widely spread rumors about having a boy or a girl. According to the changes in the mother's eating habits after pregnancy, the gender of the baby would be determined. If the mother liked sour food, the baby would be a boy. If the mother liked spicy food, the baby would be a girl. In fact, it was just a rumor. This was because the woman would have a decrease in appetite and be sensitive to smells. Depending on her taste, she would prefer sour or spicy food. It was normal for the woman to want to eat food that she didn't normally like. The real reason was the decrease in gastric acid secretion, which reduced the activity of digestive enzymes and affected the appetite and digestive function. It had nothing to do with the baby. After eating wonton, Ruan Qingshuang felt that her stomach was churning. She quickly called Feng Ying and told her that she wouldn't be going to the company because she had something urgent to deal with. Then, Ruan Qingshuang went to the hospital. She suspected that she was having a pregnancy reaction. Naturally, the doctor didn't know whether to laugh or cry. When the doctor asked her when it happened in the room, she counted the days with her fingers. The doctor was speechless. The doctor was speechless. He told her not to think too much and feel too much pressure. It was impossible to tell in just a few days. It must be a misunderstanding because it would take at least a month to check. It had only been a few days. How could they check? Ruan Qingshuang also felt that she was too impulsive. Before Su Yun and Zhua Meiyan left, they told Feng Ying that she must pay attention to Ruan Qingshuang's health at all times. Therefore, Feng Ying directly set Ruan Qingshuang's phone as her own so that she could know where Ruan Qingshuang was immediately. Today, Ruan Qingshuang told Feng Ying that she had something to do, but she didn't tell her clearly. Feng Ying was worried, so she checked the location. Seeing that she was in the hospital, she rushed over immediately. When Feng Ying arrived at the hospital, Ruan Qingshuang happened to be walking out. When she told Feng Ying about her awkward misunderstanding, Feng Ying was really speechless. She did not know whether to laugh or cry. She had to admit that Ruan Qingshuang was also a talent. She was too eager. Ruan Qingshuang was also helpless. She was under a lot of psychological pressure. At this time, there were many things that couldn't be expressed in words. Therefore, she made this kind of joke because she was under a lot of pressure in her heart. Fortunately, Feng Ying gave her support and advice, so Ruan Qingshuang didn't feel so much pressure in her heart. It comforted her a lot. Although this was just a small episode, it could be seen how much Ruan Qingshuang wanted to have Su Yun's child. In the Mardi Fran Island serious crime prison, Su Yun's eyes gradually returned to normal. When Yu Meiren felt that Su Yun's situation was much better, she immediately began to feel Su Yun's pulse. At this time, Wu Qiuzi and Huang Fu Guo also came over. Huang Fu Guo saw Su Yun's situation and immediately signaled Fan Shuang to find the unparalleled pill. Fan Shuang took out several pills without hesitation. "Do you want to kill him?" Huang Fu Guo exclaimed and signaled Fan Shuang that one pill was enough. The unparalleled pill was the most powerful pill in Huang Fu Guo's medicine. No one knew the formula of this pill, but one thing was certain. Eating this pill, as long as the person didn't die, would have a great effect of replenishing qi. This time, Huang Fu Guo brought so many unparalleled pills. He really put in a lot of effort. Fortunately, these people also lived up to their expectations. No one was seriously injured. Generally, other magical pills were enough to restore them. "Kid, you have the opportunity to eat my unparalleled pill. That's really a blessing." Huang Fu Guo sighed and gave Su Yun the medicine. Wu Qiuzi also began to give Su Yun acupuncture, consolidating Su Yun's muscles and veins, trying to guide the spiritual consciousness destroyed by the heart demon to return to its original position as soon as possible. It was no exaggeration to say that if any of these people were missing, Su Yun wouldn't be able to survive today. Su Chen's heart, which had been hanging in his throat, finally slowly relaxed. After Su Yun's condition improved, although he still didn't have consciousness, he was no longer a bomb. At this time, with so many people taking care of him, Su Chen didn't have anything to worry about. The situation above doesn't seem to be resolved yet. I'll go and take a look. After so many years, Su Chen was finally going to walk out of the 5th floor. When he said this, Feng Wuhan was quite envious because he would never be able to walk out of the 5th floor again. Even if he did, he would be carried out by others. And now, his body couldn't withstand anyone's touch. Only Feng Wuyin sat beside him, accompanying him as he waited for death. Although Bu Fifan was also standing opposite him, he didn't take the initiative to say a word to him. Feng Wuhan didn't feel that there was anything wrong with this. It was normal that no one would save him because no one would believe him. He had lost the trust of others time and time again. Although Feng Wuyin would still trust him, and Bu Fifan might also want to try to trust him, they didn't have the power to reverse the situation. They also didn't have the right to make the few people who had the power to reverse the situation believe in Feng Wuhan with them. Therefore, Feng Wuhan didn't have the slightest bit of unwillingness. He accepted everything that was happening now. Everything that was happening now was because of him, and it had nothing to do with anyone else. After Su Chen walked out of the 5th floor, his mood was very calm. When he came to the 4th floor where the fierce battle was taking place, he was indeed shocked by the scene in front of him. There were too many opponents. Every person who was defeated was resurrected after a few seconds. This was really amazing. What exactly did these people encounter? Su Chen still pitied them. After all, no one would want their corpse to be used again and again. Chapter 4095. How's Su Yun? Zhuo Lengyue asked with concern when she saw Su Chen coming out. Su Chen nodded. He's much better. Little Yi and the others are taking care of him, so there won't be any other problems. That's why I'm here to check on your situation. Zhuo Lengyue was obviously still a little worried. What about Feng Wuhan? Su Yun's godson, Bu Fifan, is Feng Wuhan's grandson. No matter how much of a bastard he is, he won't do such a thing in front of his grandson. Su Chen said, moreover, he's already at his limit. He's just waiting for death. The damage that the demonized Su Yun inflicted on him is too terrifying. Zhuo Lengyue was quite surprised by the damage that Su Yun inflicted on Feng Wuhan after entering the demonized state. It was definitely a real injury that could completely ignore all of Feng Wuhan's protective true energy. The consequences of this kind of injury were naturally extremely terrifying. What they needed to worry about now was the situation here, at least from Su Chen's point of view. These powerful undying prisoners had retained their true strength, so they weren't as easy to deal with as the undying guards. Moreover, these people who were already dead wouldn't be affected by the pressure. This was the most terrifying thing about these guys. There was no way to completely eliminate them. For everyone, it was a huge consumption. Su Chen could already see the fatigue on Ling Feng and the members of the dark section. If it wasn't for Mu Baichen and Zhua Lengyue's timely arrival, which helped them share nearly half of the pressure, they probably wouldn't have been able to hold on. Ling Feng couldn't remember how many times he had defeated Ba Shi. Ba Shi stood up again and again, which made him almost sink into despair. This was the part that hurt their morale the most. When Ba Shi stood up again and attacked Ling Feng again, Ling Feng really didn't have enough strength to resist. He was tired, so tired that he was on the verge of collapse. Fortunately, Su Chen appeared in time and blocked Ba Shi's attack. With a heavy palm strike, Ba Shi's huge body was sent flying several meters away. Su Chen's strength after joining the battle made Ling Feng gasp in surprise. An incomparable realm expert's crazy attack was undoubtedly amazing. If Ling Feng hadn't seen Su Yun's strength with his own eyes today, he might have thought that the difference between him and Su Yun was only that of an empress. But now, Ling Feng didn't dare to be so confident. He realized that the gap between him and Su Chen wasn't just a gap of the sky-profound realm, but a gap that was as wide as a chasm. This gap made him feel a kind of suffocating feeling. He was completely not a match for Su Chen. At this moment, there were only 4 words in Ling Feng's heart: I can't catch up. When Su Chen, Zhua Lengyue, and Mu Baichen didn't appear, it would take them at least an hour to wipe out their opponents. But after Zhua Lengyue and Mu Baichen appeared, it would take them close to 20 minutes to wipe out their opponents. After Su Chen came out, he first sent Ba Shi flying with a punch. Then, he jumped into the crowd and began a massacre. In the blink of an eye, the 30 over Earth profound realm felons on the 4th floor were all defeated. It didn't even take a minute for Su Chen to completely annihilate all the felons on the 4th floor. Those low-level prisoners who ran down from the upper 2 floors to die were even more vulnerable. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that if Su Chen really exerted force with his feet, he could kick those weak fellows back to the 2nd floor. Although there were other people's contributions, the kind of dominating power that Su Chen displayed was so shocking that they couldn't say a single word. Crazy. This is really crazy. Onan's mouth was already unable to close. This was the first time he saw the so-called strength above the sky-profound realm. It was simply beyond godly. Even if I was given 100 years, I still wouldn't be able to reach this level. Kongshan couldn't help but sigh. This was the gap in talent. Although hard work could make up for 99% of the gap, this 1% gap in talent was something that they would never be able to catch up to in their lifetime. It was beyond their reach. Su Chen's strength gave everyone a chance to breathe. We can't go on like this. Su Chen said, we need to think of a way to settle this once and for all. Because the resurrection of these felons in Franz Island's felon prison was different from the Undying Guards. The Undying Guards didn't know how to open the door after being thrown into the cell. But these fellows were different. They seemed to be more intelligent, closer to the thinking of a living person. This was an extremely terrifying point. We also want to settle this once and for all, but from the looks of it now, there's really no way at all. We don't even know what they're using to resurrect. Zhua Lengyue frowned. Su Chen's answer was very firm. A chip. A very high-tech artificial intelligence chip. The researchers of the American Empire came here to inject it into them. How do you know? Su Chen frowned. After I came here, the researchers of the American Empire came here many times. Recently, their movements have been more frequent. They also tried to shoot me and Feng Wuhan through the shooting hole on the 5th floor of the cell door. We dodged that special bullet. After saying that, Su Chen took out a bullet from his pocket. It's this. I've studied it. The warhead of this bullet is a kind of liquid chip that quickly dissolves in the body. The researchers of the American Empire have been researching this for decades. They should have succeeded by now. In Franz Island's felon prison, felons were resurrected because of the secret research done by the American Empire. In the conference room where Wan Guangxiao was, there had been an endless debate for a long time. With the help of Okamura Komoto, Bai Kalil continued to deny it verbally, continuing to quibble. This caused Karla Tchaikovsky to be completely enraged. The hot-tempered old Harry unceremoniously got up, grabbed Okamura Komoto's collar, and lifted him up. Okamura Komoto was dumbfounded. This was a very serious meeting place. If you continue to talk nonsense, then don't blame me for being rude to you, Karlachaykovsky said, glaring at Okamura Komoto. Okamura still had a reasonable look on his face. I'm just stating the facts. Stating the facts? I think you're just a shameless person who only knows how to add insult to injury. Karlachaykovsky threw Okamura to the ground. This is the last time I'm warning you. Don't stir shit like a stick. Okamura was also angry. You can't treat me like this. I also have the right to speak. I'm here to participate in the discussion. If you don't allow me to speak, then shut up. Karlachaykovsky roared and interrupted Okamura. Do you not know what kind of military weapons we have on the South Thousand Islands? Do you think I won't sink all of Japan with a single order? Okamura was completely frightened by Karlachaykovsky. The South Thousand Islands were the islands close to the northeast of Japan. The Japanese claimed that the 4 northern islands were theirs. However, after Japan was defeated in World War II, the Russians used the Yalta Agreement to declare that they had occupied the islands. The San Francisco Agreement also stipulated that Japan had to give up the islands. But now that the Japanese had made the American Empire feel comfortable, the American Empire unilaterally admitted that this place belonged to the Japanese. But in fact, it was still controlled by the powerful Russians. At least for now, the Japanese didn't dare to say anything to Karlachaykovsky. Therefore, the situation in the world was the same. Kind people were bullied, kind horses were ridden, and kind countries were schemed against. Karlachaykovsky's unyielding attitude made Baikal somewhat helpless. Now that Okamura did not dare to say anything, the other countries started to use Karlachaykovsky's strength to pressure him. Everyone wanted to know what the American Empire had done to the people on Mardi Franz Island. This was very important to all the countries, very, very important. If you still don't say anything now, I'm afraid the agreement between us will be torn apart. Wan Guangxiao said bluntly, I will sign a new agreement with all the countries. Now, we will launch an operation to land on Mardi Franz Island. When the time comes, even if you don't say anything, we will investigate what you have done. Chapter 4096. Although the American Empire was tough, the countries facing it were not weak countries that could be easily manipulated. Although they might be afraid in a one-on-one confrontation, their combined strength was much stronger. Although Baikal was strong, he was also clear about what he should and should not do. For now, he had to compromise. If he did not compromise, Baikal would encounter unprecedented resistance, and the American Empire would also fall into a crisis of trust. With no other choice, Baikal had someone send the contents of the experiment and the operating system of the new generation of chips to his computer. Before displaying this thing, Baikal emphasized, "This is definitely not for the benefit of the American Empire. This is for the sake of the entire Earth, for the sake of all mankind. Our original intention in doing this research is for everyone. If you're thinking for everyone, you should let everyone participate." Wan Guangxiao unceremoniously exposed Baikal's lie. If you're thinking for the entire planet, you would have asked all the countries in the world to step up and help. What do you mean? You don't believe me? Baikal was a little angry. Wan Guangxiao, I sincerely want to solve the problem. The problem of air pollution, the problem of climate warming, the problem of sea level rise, the American Empire knows all these. Isn't this also for the entire planet? Wan Guangxiao asked back, the same problem. Should some of it be shared, and some of it should be shouldered by you all alone? Baikal was speechless. If it was for the sake of the entire world, the American Empire would definitely request all countries to do it. However, it was different now. Although this kind of research required money and effort, the ultimate goal was not for the sake of the world. It was for the sake of the American Empire. Of course, Baikal would not say it. Am I preparing to share it now? Baikal tried to argue. Everything that cost money and was threatened, the American Empire took responsibility. Now we have to share the results with you. What's there to complain about? The so-called sharing of success was meaningless now. At least from Baikal's point of view, it was meaningless because he knew that the riot in the prison on Franz Island was caused by the American Empire. Moreover, the sudden appearance of this once-in-a-century storm would definitely destroy everyone, so Baikal knew that there was no point in hiding it any longer. In any case, no one would be able to benefit from this matter in the end. Then hurry up. I'm very busy. I don't have that much time to waste here, Karlachsky said. Baikal did not refute him. He knew that Karlachsky was not someone to be trifled with. Furthermore, he had a hot temper and did not consider the consequences of his actions. He did not want to lose face in front of Karlachsky like the Japanese dogs. Baikal told everyone about the plans for the new chip system. Of course, he didn't share the details of the design. He only shared the functions of the chip, its uses, and how to operate it. Because none of this mattered anymore. Our experimental targets are those felons. If they die, we will be able to override them, Baikal said. We can't override them right now. As he spoke, he turned the new chip system on and off. This inadvertent thing of his really brought great benefits to the people in the prison on Franz Island. The immortal prisoners that made Su Chen feel helpless were turned off by his inadvertent system operation. In short, this thing is meaningless to us now, Baikal said. I've said what I need to say. Is there anything else you want to know? Is this why you want to destroy the entire prison on Franz Island? Karlachsky asked. Baikal nodded. That's right, because such a huge storm is very likely to completely destroy the security system of Madifran Island. If the security system of Madifran Island is broken and those people escape, it won't be easy for us to find them. Speaking of which, this was indeed a very dangerous thing to do. These people have a new generation of chips on them, Baikal said. If they manage to escape, even if they're dead, they'll still be a threat. If there's a day when such vicious people appear and can't be killed, the world will be plunged into panic and disaster, Baikal said. If that kind of thing really happens one day, then the American Empire will have to take full responsibility. Wan Guangxiao angrily slammed the table. How can you do such a dangerous thing for the sake of your own country's private interests? Did you not consider the consequences when you did the research? Baikal was yelled at by Wan Guangxiao and did not say a word. He had no reason to explain. The US Empire did this for the sake of their own country's private interests and did not consider the consequences and threats. Now that they realized the threat, they could only use such extreme means to solve it. We are making up for it. Didn't we gather today to discuss the problem of making up for it? Baikal said. What else do you have to say? As long as we make up for it, everything can still be back on track. This is ridiculous. Wan Guangxiao was really speechless at the actions of the US Empire. These bastards actually risked the lives of the entire human race on Earth to do this damn experiment. You really are bastards with no integrity at all. Karlachsky took a deep breath. I announce that I will completely withdraw from any confidential cooperation with the US Empire. For this cooperation, I only need to see you clearly once. Baikal's expression changed. His cooperation with Karlachsky was not just limited to the prison on Francis Island. There were also some secret cooperation between the two countries in the Bering Strait that was beneficial to both countries. But now, Karlachsky felt that there was no need to continue the cooperation. Baikal's lack of integrity made him lose all trust in the US Empire. For you to make such a decision, it's best to ask for your no need. In the future, I will be the one to decide on these matters with the US Empire. Karlachsky glared at Baikal. Baikal was speechless. Such a dangerous matter made Okamura feel deeply insulted. Although he knew that the US Empire was using Japan, if this was based on a certain level of trust, Okamura would accept it. But this kind of use was an insult to Japan. Okamura now felt that Japan's status in front of the US Empire was very low. To put it bluntly, they were even worse than a dog. A dog would be given a bone to eat after doing something. Now, Japan had done so many things for the US Empire, but they did not even get to eat a bone. The US Empire even hid the bone behind Japan's back. How could Japan accept this? Okamura's expression became uglier and uglier. Even Japan could not accept this result, let alone other countries. You want to use destructive weapons to destroy the entire Mardi Franz Island, just to prevent future trouble? Wan Guangxiao gritted his teeth. Can the US Empire be any more despicable? Bai Khalil frowned. We have our own principles. It's not up to you to tell us what to do in Huaxia. Then let me tell you, Huaxia has our own principles. It's not up to you to tell us what to do in Huaxia. Wan Guangxiao said, Marty, I'm definitely going to the Franz Island felon prison. If you have the guts, try moving. Don't think that Huaxia can't intercept a missile from such a long distance. Can the US Empire be sure that there are no submarines in the deep sea? Bai Khalil's mouth twitched a few times. He could feel Wan Guangxiao's threat. Are you trying to scare me? Vaikal said coldly, things like boasting may be a daily thing for you Huaxia people, but to us Americans, it's completely meaningless. Chapter 4097. Wan Guangxiao's threat completely stunned Bai Khalil. He did not expect that Huaxia had already determined the coordinates of their stealth aircraft carrier. This obviously made Bai Khalil's heart tremble. The US Empire had always known that Huaxia's submarines were very powerful. The exposure of their stealth aircraft carrier's location was most likely discovered by Huaxia's submarine force. After all, Huaxia's submarine force was one of the 5 major branches of the Huaxia Navy. They had many conventionally powered submarines and nuclear submarines, all of which had a certain degree of long-range strike capability and secondary nuclear strike capability. Now, with the continuous service of new and improved submarines, the number and quality of Huaxia Navy's submarines had significantly improved. In terms of numbers, they had surpassed Russia and were about the same as the US Empire's submarines. In terms of quality, their main performance had reached the advanced level of similar equipment in Western countries. Although the relevant research institutions of the US Empire suspected that Huaxia's nuclear submarines were noisy, difficult to communicate, and easy to attack the base, there was no evidence. It was just speculation and nonsense. In fact, the Huaxia Navy had always paid attention to the noise reduction of submarines. Whether it was the old submarines in service or the new submarines under construction, they had taken corresponding noise reduction measures, especially the new nuclear submarines. According to public data, their noise level was no different from the US Empire's Los Angeles-class nuclear submarines. Even Russia admitted that Huaxia's nuclear submarines were better than their Delta-type nuclear submarines. Submarines and aircraft carriers were enemies on a combat level. This was basic common sense. At the beginning of its development, aircraft carriers were designed specifically for anti-submarine missions. During World War II, the main function of the large number of escort aircraft carriers built by the British and American navies was to protect the sea lines of communication. Their purpose at that time was to encircle and suppress the German submarine wolf pack. Over the years, anyone who understood the situation could see that Huaxia and the US Empire had carried out a series of naval and air battles without smoke in the western Pacific Ocean. This was really a part of the special exchanges between the two armies of Huaxia and the US Empire. Submarines and aircraft carriers could be regarded as the most symbolic symbols of the armed forces of Huaxia and the US Empire respectively. 10 years ago, a conventionally powered submarine of the Huaxia Navy had once followed the American Empire's Kitty Hawk aircraft carrier in the Japanese waters of Okinawa without being discovered by the American Empire's aircraft carrier. After that, the submarine surfaced within the torpedo attack range. The former commander of the United States Pacific Command also said that at that time, the Kitty Hawk aircraft carrier did not expect the Huaxia Navy submarine to be so close to it and did not discover the submarine. To the United States, this was a slap in the face. This was within the fish's attack range. However, the United States was a powerful country after all, and they still cared about their reputation. Therefore, they refused to admit it. They said that the situation in the Pacific Ocean was stable, so the Kitty Hawk was not in a state of alert. If it was in a state of alert, Huaxia's submarine would not have approached them. As a result, just 2 years after the commander of the United States Pacific Command said this, Hua Xia's submarine once again slapped the United States in the face. This would be an unforgettable experience for the United States. This was also why when Wan Guangxiao said that he knew the location of the American Empire's invisible aircraft carrier, Bai Khalil immediately thought of Hua Xia's submarine force. It was a military exercise of the United States Pacific Ocean. Hua Xia's submarine suddenly appeared at the exercise site and approached the American Empire's aircraft carrier carrying nearly 5,000 soldiers. This made the American Empire's military officials dumbfounded. The incident happened in the waters between the southern part of Japan and Taiwan. Hua Xia's submarine passed by 12 American ships that were protecting the American Empire's aircraft carrier and approached the American Empire's aircraft carrier. Originally, the American Empire's military exercise was to teach Hua Xia a lesson and allow the Kitty Hawk aircraft carrier to regain the face they had lost last year. In the end, they were slapped in the face again. Once again, the Kitty Hawk fell in front of Hua Xia's submarine. This incident left a lingering fear in the American Empire until now. Bai Khalil's head was about to explode. At this moment, he thought of too many things. Hua Xia's military development speed was too terrifying. It was so terrifying that he did not dare to think too much about it. It was so terrifying that he did not dare to challenge Wan Guangxiao. Could the American Empire tolerate this kind of humiliation? Of course not. In front of so many countries in the world, the American Empire had never tolerated this kind of humiliation. But now, Bai Khalil had no choice but to tolerate it. I will only give you one warning. I have no objections if you want to destroy Marty Franz Island, but you have to wait for me to bring out the people I sent in, Wan Guangxiao said. At that time, you can do whatever you want. Bai Khalil frowned. I can promise you, but there is a condition. I will not wait until the storm is over. Once the storm is over, everything will be too late. Because once the sea level calms down, those guys inside. I don't need you to set a time limit for me now. Wan Guangxiao said bluntly. I did not plan to wait for the storm to end. I will take action immediately. I don't care when you do it, but it has to be after I tell you that we have left. Bai Khalil wanted to refuse, but Wan Guangxiao's eyes were too murderous. He could not say anything. Who else wants to act with Hua Xia? Bai Khalil could only turn his gaze to the representatives of other countries. For them, they already knew what the secret research of the American Empire was. It was not worth the risk to go to Marty Franz Island. After all, the guards sent in were already dead. For most people, it was not worth it to do something that did not benefit them. At this time, no one had the same reason as Wan Guangxiao that they had to go, but Wan Guangxiao had to go. After all, Wan Guangxiao's reason for going was not only the undead guards, but also Su Yun's team. At this time, Wan Guangxiao showed unprecedented determination. In the end, Bai Khalil made a compromise. This was something he had to compromise on. Moreover, he needed to return to his country immediately and inform all the aircraft carrier guards to investigate the surrounding area. He had to be on guard and on guard. When Su Chen defeated these prisoners who had come back from the dead for the third time, some of the prisoners who were still standing fell heavily to the ground. This was all thanks to Bai Khalil pressing the shutdown button when he was practicing the operation of the chip system. Although the two sides were thousands of miles apart, this small operation affected the entire situation. Although Su Chen and the others did not understand what had happened, they were still very willing to accept this result. At least they did not need to waste any more energy and time. In the end, this was all thanks to Wan Guangxiao. If it were not for Wan Guangxiao's unyielding attitude and the help of the powerful Russian, Bai Khalil would never have operated the chip system, and would not have unintentionally stopped these prisoners from coming back to life. Many things seem to be coincidental, but in fact, they were all interconnected. Without any link, the coincidence would not exist. Any effort in any area could be a help to the overall situation. After everything quieted down, Su Chen and the others returned to check on Su Yun's current situation. Mu Baichen arranged for two of his brothers to keep an eye on him and inform them immediately if there was any situation. This was a rare break for everyone, but it was also a headache for some of them. The storm outside continued, but they had no way of escaping. The young man didn't think too much about it. He knew that it was useless to think too much. Anyway, the wireless network in Francis Island Marty was quite good. After seeing that Su Yun's condition had improved, the few heartless boys sat on the ground with their phones and played Honor of Kings together. At this time, Su Chen came in. He looked at the few of them and sighed. Times are really fast. The game consoles are so advanced now. There are no buttons. When I was your age, I was still playing Tetris. What brand of game console is this? Everyone was stunned. Zhua Lingyue pulled Su Chen. This is a cell phone. Su Chen was a little confused. Cell phone? He was one of the first people to get a cell phone in Huaxia. He used the Motorola 166C for a long time before it was sold in the market. Back then, most of the phones were pagers. He had a cell phone long ago. Chapter 4098. Because Bai Xiaoye was also one of the many King of Glory fans, she was also playing with them. Zhua Lingyue felt that this was a good opportunity to ease the awkward father-daughter relationship between Su Chen and Bai Xiaoye. After all, Su Chen didn't dare to take the initiative to greet Bai Xiaoye. After all, a daughter was different from a son. Although Su Chen didn't accompany Su Yun as he grew up, he at least arranged Zhang Jianji for Su Yun. Moreover, it wasn't a big deal for Su Chen if a boy had to suffer a little. However, Bai Xiaoye was different. She was his daughter, and he didn't even see her once, let alone accompany her as she grew up. For Bai Xiaoye, it wasn't impossible for her to communicate with Su Chen. To Bai Xiaoye, the father-daughter relationship between her and Su Chen was too strange. Therefore, she was also very awkward and didn't take the initiative to speak. Both of them wanted to say the first sentence, but they didn't have the opportunity to do so. Zhua Lingyue smiled and said to Bai Xiaoye, "It seems that he's out of touch. After we go out, you really need to teach your father more. Tell him what a smartphone is, what a laptop is, what live streaming is, and what King of Glory is." Bai Xiaoye raised her head and looked at Zhua Lingyue before her gaze landed on Su Chen. She said nervously, "Of course. Then, I'll thank you in advance." Su Chen looked even more nervous than Bai Xiaoye. After all, he was the father, and Bai Xiaoye was the daughter. This was the first time he saw his daughter, and the guilt and awkwardness in his heart were too strong. "Xiaoye, don't cheat me. If I win this round, I'll go to King of Glory." Lin Gu wailed. Bai Xiaoye's character in the game died because she didn't have the heart to play the game. The reunion between father and daughter was much more important than the game. Bai Xiaoye glared at Lin Gu. "If you go to King of Glory, we won't be able to play the ranking matches together. Don't even think about it." After saying that, she threw her phone away and stopped playing. "Quick, you take her place." Lin Gu pulled Chen Feng to his side. "You take her place. She's going to meet her relatives." Chen Feng stared blankly at the gray image on the phone screen. "Where is he?" "He's dead, waiting to be revived." Lin Ji's character sent his opponent flying with a single shot. He turned around and looked at Chen Feng in horror. "You don't even know what a gray screen means? Don't tell me you haven't played it before?" Chen Feng nodded. "Of course. Do you think I can play games on my phone every day in the army?" Lin Gu snatched Bai Xiaoye's phone and put it aside. "Then you'd better not play. I'd rather have 4 against 5 than to bring someone who's going to die and give the opponent money." At this moment, Zhua Lingyue was most gratified because Bai Xiaoye didn't show the behavior she was worried about. At first, she thought that girls were sensitive and would feel sad, resentful, and angry at times like this. However, Bai Xiaoye didn't. She didn't show any reproach or blame at all. "I don't know if he can make it." Su Chen tried to find a topic. His gaze fell on Su Yun. Now that Su Yun had medical emperor, Wu Qiuzi, and Huaxia's top military doctor, Yu Marin, there shouldn't be a problem. Su Chen wasn't worried. This was also why Lin Gu and the others were in the mood to play games. It was because of trust. They believed that with these 3 people, Su Yun would be fine. Don't worry, Dad. Bai Xiaoye said softly, I believe that my brother will be blessed by the heavens. I also believe that good will be rewarded. My brother has never done anything evil. Everything he does is righteous. All the sacrifices he makes are for the greater good. Therefore, I believe that he will be fine. Su Chen smiled. This kind of comfort from having both a son and a daughter was very moving for someone like him who hadn't seen the light of day for so many years. If a good person like my brother can't make it, then the heavens are really asking for it. Bai Xiaoye pointed at the sky. Then he's too much of a bastard. It's time to step down. Zhuo Lengyue smiled helplessly and shook her head. How can you say that? I'm telling the truth. Bai Xiaoye said. At this time, Lin Gu and the others were in a ranking match because of Bai Xiaoye's absence. Lin Gu helplessly put down his phone and walked over. He didn't come to criticize Bai Xiaoye. Instead, he came to chat with Su Chen. Uncle Su, don't worry. I can guarantee that my brother Yun will be fine. No matter how dangerous the situation is, he can make it through. I trust him 100%. Su Chen nodded. Thank you. You don't have to be so polite with me. Lin Gu said, you can order me around and lecture me like I'm your son. I'm telling the truth, really. I'm not lying to you. My temper isn't something that most people can handle. Su Chen laughed out loud. I'm not afraid. I don't care about this at all. Lin Gu also smiled. My brother scolded me a lot. I'm impulsive, so he lectured me. I don't blame him at all. I know he's doing it for my own good. That's because you're a smart person. Su Chen said. Zhuo Lengyue didn't want Lin Gu to disturb the conversation between Su Chen and Bai Xiaoye. She hoped that he could leave first. If there's anything you want to talk about with your Uncle Su, we can talk after we get out. After saying that, Zhuo Lengyue gave Lin Gu a look, telling him to understand it himself. Lin Gu suddenly realized that he shouldn't have interrupted them. He immediately prepared to leave. At this moment, Bai Xiaoye said, it's still unknown whether we can get out or not. We have to get out. We have to get out. Lin Gu couldn't help but firmly reply, Uncle Su still has to go out and see his cute granddaughter, and... granddaughter. Su Chen's interest was piqued. He directly interrupted Lin Gu. Su Yun is already married and has a child? No. Lin Gu shook his head. They're not blood-related, but they're better than blood-related. You'll understand when you get out, uncle. Moreover, maybe in 10 months, your grandson or granddaughter will be born. Su Chen's heart was filled with emotions. He had to get out. These were all reasons why he had to get out. He definitely couldn't be trapped here. Otherwise, as a grandfather, he would feel guilty for the rest of his life. Now that Su Yun was still unconscious, Wang Yi, Lu Xuanji, and the others had already started discussing how to leave this place. Of course, the prerequisite was that they could only open the door after the storm stopped. However, it was indeed too early to talk about this. After all, they didn't have any clues at all. At this time, Lu Xianyu called Su Chen over to give them some suggestions. After all, Su Chen had been here for a longer time and might know more than them. Zhuo Lengyue didn't want Su Chen to be called away, so she directly replied, no matter how long he's been here, he's still locked up on this floor. He hasn't been outside, so he won't know too much. If he knew, he would have left long ago. That's true. Shen Yuanji laughed. However, Su Chen felt that this wasn't the time to enjoy family happiness. After they got out, he would make it up to Bai Xiaoye and his son. As for Zhuo Lengyue, he would also make it up to her. But now, he felt that it was necessary for him to participate in everyone's research. One more person meant one more chance to escape. Now that they were in a desperate situation, they had to find a way to solve this problem. Moreover, they had to hurry up and solve it because once Martifran Island returned to the bottom of the sea, it would be meaningless for them to find a way to open the door. Su Chen signaled Zhuo Lengyue to help take care of Su Yun while he joined the research team. These people were all experienced people, so they might be able to come up with a good idea. Zhuo Lengyue was helpless. Bai Xiaoye also stopped playing games and went to help take care of Su Yun. After all, Yu Meren was already very tired. Now, everyone hoped that Su Yun could get better soon. That way there would be more hope. After all, Su Yun's situation affected everyone's hearts. If Su Yun was fine, then maybe everyone could focus on finding a solution. Chapter 4099. Reality seemed to be particularly difficult to accept. Su Yun had been unconscious for 8 hours, and Feng Wuhan had quietly died. In these 8 hours, everyone had racked their brains but could not think of any good way to open the door. This was undoubtedly frustrating. Even Wang Yi, who had always been mild-tempered, lost his patience. He slammed his fist on the wall. When he turned around and saw Qian Feng, who had learned to play Honor of Kings, he kicked him. "How can you still be in the mood to play at a time like this?" Qian Feng scratched his head helplessly. He thought to himself, if I win this round, I'll be in the gold rank. His domestic divine phone had a longer standby time. Looking at the others, their phones were all out of battery. However, he was also quite helpless when he was interrupted at such a critical moment. After all, it was Wang Yi who interrupted him. Along the way, they had tried 3 possible methods, but none of them had succeeded. Now, everyone was indeed much more anxious than before. At this time, Qian Feng's phone also ran out of battery. This time, he was completely helpless. He could only wait for his teammates to complain. Is Su Yun's situation better now? Su Chen could not help but ask. In the past 8 hours, many people had been concerned about Su Yun's situation, but as his father, he did not ask much. But now, he finally could not help but ask. Su Yun was lying in front of him so peacefully. Even if he was asleep, he should have woken up by now, right? "Uncle Su, his situation looks quite normal, but I don't know why, but..." Yu Meren's face was full of anxiety. She was very worried. She was especially afraid that Su Yun might be in a vegetative state. Su Chen could hear the fear in Yu Meren's voice. He comforted her in a low voice. "Don't worry, child. Everything will be fine." "Su Chen, there's something you might not like to hear, but I have to say it to you." Wu Qiuzi also frowned. "If this kid really doesn't wake up in the future, don't be too sad." Su Chen knew that if Wu Qiuzi said the same thing, Su Yun's chances would be slim. All of this seemed so unacceptable. Previously, everything seemed to be fine. Su Yun gradually calmed down and waited to stand up again. But now, for some reason, he just couldn't stand up. For some reason, Fan Shuanger pushed Huang Fu Guo angrily and said, "Is it because your peerless pill is too strong? Tell me." Huang Fu Guo also looked worried. "This really has nothing to do with the peerless elixir. The peerless elixir is not a medicine, but a supplement. Su Yun's body functions are normal now, and it is the effect of the peerless elixir. I can prove that." Wu Qiuzi also said to Fan Shuanger, "We can't let him take the blame. Su Yun's inability to wake up has nothing to do with him. It all depends on Su Yun's spiritual power. There's no problem with my brother's spiritual power at all." Bai Xiaoye was already emotional 2 hours ago. "If I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have let you guys interfere." Su Chen was helpless. He signaled Bai Xiaoye not to be impulsive and emotional. He also explained for them, if it weren't for them, your brother's situation would definitely be worse. Don't blame other kind-hearted people. Bai Xiaoye also knew that she had gone too far, but she really couldn't control herself at this time. "Don't say so much." Zhuo Lengyue raised the most realistic question. "If we didn't have a way to get out, wouldn't Su Yun be in a better state now? At least, he wouldn't have to go through the trouble we're going to have to go through." Our trouble? Only then did they realize the trouble they were going to face. Water and food in the prison on Mardi Fran Island had to be supplied from the outside. If there was no supply, everything would be over. All the food they had on the ship had been ruined when the prisoners were resurrected. The battle had come too suddenly, so many things were destroyed. Now that there were so many people here, How were they going to survive without food and water? This was really hard to imagine. Everyone here, even Su Chen, who had inaction realm strength and could live without eating for dozens of days, still needed to drink water. At least, there had to be something simple to eat, even if it was just a date or a mouthful of water. But now, there was nothing. Realizing the trouble and danger, everyone finally started to feel fear. As the atmosphere became quieter, the fear grew stronger. No one knew what they should do next. We can't push ourselves into our own trouble just because we're going to face trouble, right? Xian Yuanji's optimistic words lit up everyone's hope, but it was just a small hope. Even if we're going to face trouble soon, at least it won't be now. So, there's no need for us to frown. Xian Yuanji's attitude was undoubtedly very good. Because of his attitude and his words, the atmosphere became more relaxed. But this relaxation didn't last long. Another 8 hours passed, but Su Yun's situation still didn't change, and they still didn't have any good way to open the door. Everyone had already gone from the 5th floor to the 1st floor, and the doors below were closed layer by layer. Everyone was worried that the dead people would be resurrected again. Lin Gu listened carefully to the storm outside, and he came to a conclusion. The storm now is obviously slower than when we first came to the 1st floor, and the frequency of lightning is also much lower. Perhaps the storm will stop if we persevere a little longer. The storm isn't the point. Xie Fei's shook his head. As long as we can open the door, we naturally have a way to resist the storm. But if we can't even open the door, then we won't even have a chance to resist the storm. This was what many people wanted to say. Su Chen and Feng Wuyin had also tried to work together to destroy the prison's entrance door, but the material of this door seemed to be able to absorb all power. All their strength seemed to have been used on a sponge. Everyone, who had no choice, was now really envious of Su Yun. Some even hoped that they could be like Su Yun, so that they would be carefree. But in fact, everyone's body was very honest. No one had really given up hope of leaving this place. Everyone was insisting on thinking of new ways to deal with this prison door that was the most difficult to open in the world. However, they couldn't get any results after trying again and again. This kind of frustration brought them nothing other than pain. Time was still passing minute by minute, and everyone's confidence was being consumed bit by bit. All of this seemed to be a difficult tug of war. In the end, another 10 hours passed, but no one made any progress. Perhaps this was really a super genius design that no one could destroy. If it could really be destroyed, then Marty Franz Island wouldn't be qualified to become a global prison for serious criminals. Those who understood this principle had a bitter smile on their faces. The young people who hadn't understood this principle were still frowning, trying to find a way to solve the problem. Next, more than 10 hours passed. In these 10 hours, everyone's confidence had been shattered. They had thought of almost all the methods they could think of, but none of them could solve the problem at all. Just as everyone's confidence was about to disappear, a ray of light appeared at the entrance of the prison for serious criminals. The sound of a huge thunderstorm also came from the entrance. Everyone stood up in shock. A figure stood at the door. He was drenched and looked haggard. Then, many more figures appeared. Wang Yi's face revealed an incredulous smile. Even he couldn't believe that Wan had actually come. Wan Guangxiao had brought 20 experts from the Dragon Brigade to rescue them. They had been fighting the storm on the sea for more than 10 hours before they finally found Marty Franz Island. Chapter 4100. Inside the comfortable cabin, Su Chen stroked the armrest of the chair, his heart filled with emotions. This new type of long-distance warship filled him with excitement. He really didn't expect that in just 20 years, the country's military power could actually make such a huge leap and advance. This was really something Su Chen didn't even dare to think about 20 years ago. If it weren't for the fact that I'm a low-key person, I would have directly mobilized an aircraft carrier to pick you up. Wan Guangxiao laughed a few times. He could see Su Chen's pride for his country. There was no need to say more at this time. Keep bragging. Su Chen couldn't help but laugh. The country had its own aircraft carrier. This was something many people didn't even dare to dream of. Not to mention an aircraft carrier, just these high-tech long-distance warships were enough to shock Su Chen, who hadn't been in Chen City for more than 20 years. Let's talk about this long-distance warship. Jiangnan Shipbuilding Group spent years of effort on it. Our Huaxia Shipbuilding Group also has a strong military research capability now. They have rich experience in the development of long-distance warships. Wan Guangxiao was also very energetic. I won't brag. Our long-distance warship has a displacement of about 30,000 tons. Even if it encounters a Category 12 typhoon, there won't be any problems. The self-sustaining combat time is 100 days. When carrying out sea missions, we can fight within the 3 oceans of 60 degrees north and south latitude. There won't be any worries. You're really well prepared. Su Chen said, you're not going to give up even after 100 days. Not just 100 days, even if it's 1,000 days, I'll still find you. Wan Guangxiao glared. Even if you ask me to directly board an aircraft carrier, I won't hesitate. As long as I can find you. Su Chen smiled and shook his head. People like us aren't worth the country wasting so much energy on. You're the chief of the Dragon Brigade. Don't do such impulsive things in the future. You should focus on protecting the country. The military power of Huaxia now is completely different from what you knew back then. Wan Guangxiao said, now, no other country dares to touch Huaxia, and no other country can touch Huaxia. Are you that confident? Su Chen was surprised. After all, in the era he knew, powerful countries like the United States Empire were still bullying Huaxia. A few years after Su Chen entered the Mardi Franz Island felon prison, the United States Empire even bombed Huaxia's embassy in South Slavia. At that time, Huaxia could only condemn it and was powerless to fight back. Of course, Su Chen didn't know about this. If he did, with his temper, it wasn't impossible for him to sneak into the military base of the American Empire in Dongying and blow up their military base. But now, the United States no longer dared to bully Huaxia. Let me tell you this. Wan Guangxiao smiled and said, in the 2 decades since you left, our military expenditure has increased by almost 20 times. Now, it's close to 100 billion USD. 100 billion US dollars? To Su Chen, this was an unbelievable number. Wasn't this too terrifying? Does our country have so much money? Other than shock, there was only shock on Su Chen's face. The huge changes over the years were beyond his imagination. Let me tell you, our military expenditure is very small in GDP, but our country's GDP is already quite large and continues to grow, so military expenditure is naturally increasing. Although our country is still seriously studying imported weapons and equipment samples to this day, it's no longer a simple imitation, but a creative development. Wan Guangxiao said, moreover, Matthew, who is recognized by the world as a high-tech weapon development genius, is now in our country. Su Chen believed Wan Guangxiao's words. This exciting news was the best thing he had heard since he came out. Over the years, our military technology has advanced by leaps and bounds. This makes it theoretically possible for our country to be invaded by an external force. It can only be imagined that the U.S. empire uses sea-based and air-based cruise missiles, and possibly carrier-based aviation to attack us. Wan Guangxiao said, but now that Matthew has perfected our national defense weapons system, within 3 years, the United States empire will not be able to find any channel to attack Huaxia. By then, they will be completely stupid. Wan Guangxiao rarely cursed. At this time, he cursed completely because he wanted to vent his emotions. When the United States Empire bullied Huaxia back then, Huaxia did not have enough military power to fight back and could only swallow their anger. But he believed that Huaxia would never be bullied again in the future. Any other form of war can no longer pose a threat to Huaxia. In order to fight back against this purely imaginary threat, we are vigorously developing the Air Force and Navy, as well as the air defense forces belonging to the Army, Wan Guangxiao continued. Su Chen was really outdated with the current military development. He wanted to keep up with the development of the times as soon as possible, so he listened very quietly to Wan Guangxiao's words. Then how do we develop our military power now? Su Chen said, "Tell me about it, otherwise, it's really like I'm listening to a book from heaven." Now, there are two main paths for our country's military development. Wan Guangxiao smiled and said confidently, one is threat-based development, which is to respond to real security threats. This path mainly stems from the realistic requirements of responding to security threats. To a certain extent, it depends on the stimulation of security threats. It's the stimulus response model, which can be regarded as a coping development model. On a deeper level, it's a passive development model. Su Chen nodded. It did make sense. The other is ability-based development, which is to focus on the future and shape the development of abilities. This path mainly stems from the guidance of strategic goals. It seeks to shape the development of abilities in order to achieve a certain strategic goal. It's the goal guidance model, which can be regarded as the shaping development model. These two development strategies show different development characteristics and requirements in practice. Wan Guangxiao spoke very seriously. Su Chen nodded, not fully understanding. The threat-based development is based on responding to real security threats. It mainly shows the development of current, passive, and maintenance. On the other hand, the ability-based development is based on shaping future military abilities. It mainly shows the development of foresight, initiative, and innovation, Wan Guangxiao said. Su Chen's ability to accept was still very strong. But in the current situation, there's no development purely based on threats. Threats also require the improvement of abilities. There's also no development purely based on abilities. The purpose of ability-based development is to respond to security threats. Yes, that's right. It's just that the threat-based development focuses more on the immediate response. Its development must be based on the current reality. On the other hand, ability-based development focuses more on resolving possible security threats from a grand perspective and integrating the response to security threats into shaping future development. Wan Guangxiao nodded. Then in this sense, the two development strategies are actually based on the combination of threat-based and ability-based development. They choose to focus on responding to real threats or on shaping future abilities. From this, they form different development goals, methods, and focus points, constitute different development models, and reflect different development results. Su Chen had already begun to analyze the current military development. Wan Guangxiao hugged Su Chen's shoulder. Do you know, if you hadn't made that impulsive decision back then, Hua Xia might have been able to develop to the current military level 10 years ago with you. Chief, don't flatter me. I don't have that ability. Su Chen said, I'm just a person who likes to talk. I don't care. Now, we have to realize Hua Xia's military development strategy in Hua Xia's dream. Wan Guangxiao said, I order you to return to the army to help Hua Xia's military development. Su Chen was stunned for a moment. To be honest, he had his concerns. Because he owed his children too much, owed Zhulangyue too much, and owed many people too much. If he returned to the army, then he really wouldn't have the chance to make up for it. The current strategic goal of Hua Xia's development is to realize the great revival of our nation, Hua Xia's dream. Hua Xia's dream is the dream of a strong nation. For the army, it's the dream of a strong army. Wan Guangxiao said emotionally, Hua Xia's military development must be in line with the strategic goal of realizing Hua Xia's dream of a strong army, and establish a military development strategy that is in line with it. Chapter 4101. Without a country, there would be no home. This was what Su Chen told Zhulangyue before he returned to the army. But this time, Su Chen was different. He wouldn't disappear from the sight of others forever like before. Moreover, Su Yun's current condition didn't allow Su Chen to do that. He would take time out every day to accompany Su Yun by his bed. It had been a week since they returned to Hua Xia. Sihai Gufong's friends who had helped them in this matter had left one after another. However, Su Yun still hadn't woken up. Now, he could only rely on drugs to maintain his life. What was puzzling was that his life was very tenacious. There was no problem at all, but he just couldn't wake up. Yu Marin's final conclusion was that Su Yun's mental stimulation was 300% overload, so this situation was inevitable. As for whether Su Yun could wake up or not, it was all unknown. Ruan Qingxuang also received Zhuo Meiyan's notice the next day after they returned. She left everything in Tianyu Group and rushed to Yanjing. When she saw Su Yun's state, she washed her face with tears for 2 consecutive days. Later, Wan Guangxiao couldn't stand it anymore, so he arranged for a little guy to come over and comfort her. Logically speaking, Guoguo's current status was very special, so she couldn't easily interact with outsiders. However, Wan Guangxiao couldn't bear to see her like this. If Su Yun really didn't wake up in this life and he didn't let Guoguo know about this matter, this little girl would definitely not forgive him for hiding it when she grew up. Moreover, Su Chen had also made a request, saying that he wanted to see how smart and eccentric his granddaughter was. Guoguo had grown a head taller since she left Ruan Qingxuang's side, but her spirituality still hadn't disappeared. However, the mischievousness was gone. Guoguo had really matured a lot. Compared to the little adult back then, she had really grown up a lot now. Under Guoguo's comforting, Ruan Qingxuang finally calmed down. Although Guoguo couldn't tell Ruan Qingxuang a lot of things, Ruan Qingxuang could understand that many confidential organizations in the army had confidentiality agreements, which was very important. Wan Guangxiao allowed Guoguo to come to Su Yun's ward after dinner every day. This was not arranged by Wan Guangxiao, but by Guoguo herself. She even threatened to go on a hunger strike to get such special treatment. This was because Guoguo's request was giving Wan Guangxiao a headache. She wanted him to stay like this until the day Su Yun woke up. Otherwise, she would quit Mystical Dragon. Wan Guangxiao had no choice but to agree. Therefore, there were many people accompanying Su Yun every night. Even Matthew, who was very busy every day, would come to visit Su Yun every few days. Another month had passed, and Su Yun's situation was still the same. Sky Entertainment Group still needed people, so Zhuo Meiyan had to leave. She returned to Qingdao to deal with the important matters that had accumulated over the past month. Ruan Qingxuang definitely wouldn't leave, and Bai Xiaoye didn't want to leave her brother behind either. Zhuo Meiyan had to travel between the two places. In fact, she was just as worried about Su Yun as Ruan Qingxuang. After Zhuo Meiyan returned to Qingdao, Qian Wei and Qin Wan came looking for Su Yun. They wanted to have a drink with him because of the name list that he brought back from the United States. Qian Wei joined forces with Qin Wan as well as the Disciplinary Inspection Commission, the Anti-Corruption Department, and the Public Security Department. They launched a nationwide operation to catch all the bastards who were illegally transferring huge amounts of capital overseas. Chen Wei decided to be extravagant. He wanted to have the best seafood and beer with Su Yun to celebrate their victory. Zhuo Meiyan knew that Chen Wei and Qin Wan were not outsiders, so she told him about Su Yun's situation. The two of them walked out of the room in joy. They couldn't believe that Su Yun had been in a coma for 1.5 months. This was unacceptable to them. They immediately went to Yanjing. However, Su Yun was in the Dragon Brigade's exclusive hospital. Even if an ordinary person could be trusted, it wasn't easy for them to get in. Fortunately, Qian Wei and Qin Wan's identities were very special. After they completed their mission, they were awarded the highest honor in Hua Xia's Public Security Department by the State Council. Therefore, they were able to visit Su Yun without any problems. Compared to them, Yi Fala wasn't so lucky. She had already learned about Su Yun's situation from Bu Fifan, but her situation didn't allow her to visit him. This was something that Yi Fala couldn't solve or change. In the end, she could only choose to give up. However, this didn't stop Yi Fala from video chatting with Ruan Qingxuang to learn about Su Yun's situation. In the past month, various neurology experts from all over the country had come here for countless consultations. However, in the end, no one could solve Su Yun's problem. Many experts gave the same answer after the consultations. They said that there was no possibility of Su Yun returning to a normal person. His central nervous system had been damaged in a way that all medical experts couldn't imagine. This also caused Yu Marin to fly into a rage many times. She scolded those so-called experts and professors. This wasn't Yu Marin's personality. In the end, this matter didn't continue because all of this was useless to Yu Meiren. Fan Shuang, who was far away in the South China Sea, pestered Huang Fu Guo every day. Huang Fu Guo had been concocting prescriptions almost day and night for the past month. He only had one goal, which was to restore Su Yun's damaged central nervous system. Although it was almost impossible to use medicine to restore it, Huang Fu Guo was known as the Medicine Emperor. Just based on this point, Fan Shuang wouldn't let him off. If he couldn't concoct an effective medicine, Fan Shuang wouldn't agree to let him inherit his mantle and let his medical theory be lost forever. This forced Huang Fu Guo to Liangshan. Empress Zhuo Langyue also searched the whole world for neurology experts. She had searched all of Europe, but no one could solve Su Yun's current situation. Logically speaking, the longer this matter dragged on, the easier it would be for everyone's confidence to fade. However, when it came to Su Yun's situation, no one lost confidence because there was no solution. They were still working hard. Lin Gu even embarked on a global search for ways to treat vegetative patients. He even said that he couldn't miss the opportunity to go to a primitive tribe. He had to find a way to cure Su Yun. Otherwise, he wouldn't return. There were many people who didn't mention it, but it didn't mean that they didn't continue to pay attention to Su Yun's situation. Anyone who was related to Su Yun would do their best to help Su Yun solve this problem. There wasn't a single person who didn't do their best and give it their all. However, time still passed day by day, and there was still no progress. It was another morning. When everyone was at their most tired, Ruan Qingxuang still got up without hesitation and wiped Su Yun's face. Su Yun still responded with silence. After Ruan Qingxuang wiped Su Yun's face, she suddenly felt nauseous. She quickly ran to the bathroom. Just when Ruan Qingxuang felt uncomfortable, Yu Meiren came. After she heard Ruan Qingxuang's voice, she immediately came in to understand the situation. Ruan Qingxuang said that she was fine, but Yu Meiren thought that she was overtired, so she insisted on giving her a simple checkup and letting her rest for a while. After all, Ruan Qingxuang was really too tired for the past month. After the diagnosis came out, everyone was overjoyed. Whether it was Yu Meiren or Zhuo Meiyan, in short, all the women around Su Yun were overjoyed by the news. Ruan Qingxuang was pregnant. In Su Yun's current state, Ruan Qingxuang's child was simply a blessing from the heavens for everyone. After receiving the news, Su Chen couldn't sleep for 3 days. However, he felt helpless in his heart. After all, Su Yun didn't give Ruan Qingxuang a status. This was just like how Zhuo Langyue gave birth to Bai Xiaoye. Su Chen didn't want this to happen. He knew the pain Bai Xiaoye had to go through while growing up, so Su Chen didn't want his own grandson or granddaughter. At this time, everyone's motivation to wake Su Yun up as soon as possible was ignited once again. The brothers of the Dragon Fury team and everyone else were also looking forward to the birth of this little guy. In another 8 or 9 months, they would have another little warrior. Chapter 4102. However, the decision was in Ruan Qingxuang's hands. After all, she was going to give birth to the child, so the decision was definitely in her hands. No matter what these godparents thought, and no matter what Bai Xiaoye, the biological aunt, thought, they had to respect Ruan Qingxuang's decision in the end. Ruan Qingxuang was helpless about this. After all, it had just been confirmed. Even if the child was born, it was still early. It was unrealistic to make a decision now. Ruan Qingxuang announced that she would give the child the right to choose after he grew up. This answer was barely enough to balance everyone's mentality. After confirming Ruan Qingxuang's pregnancy, everyone insisted that Ruan Qingxuang not be too tired. She wanted to take care of the baby and rest. However, she disagreed. Now, Ruan Qingxuang would feel anxious if she didn't see Su Yun for a day. As a result, the next day, Qian Feng and the other boys carried a nursing bed into the ward, taking away the ordinary bed from before. Ruan Qingxuang didn't know whether to laugh or cry. In her opinion, it was just a pregnancy. Women would go through this process, so there was no need to make such a big fuss. This made her feel pressured instead. Just like this, As time passed day by day, Ruan Qingxuang's belly began to show signs after 4 months. During this period, Su Yun had received treatment from experts abroad 13 times that Zhualang Yue had found from Zhualang Yue. He had eaten the medicinal pills sent by Fan Shuanger from thousands of miles away 6 times that Huang Fu Gua had painstakingly made. He had also let Wu Qiuzi personally try the reliable folk prescriptions, collected by Lin Gu no less than 10 times. However, the situation still didn't change. However, in the past half a year, everyone seemed to have gotten used to it. They were not too disappointed, and there were not too many changes in their mentality. In any case, Su Yun's body was still functioning normally, so they would continue to work hard. Finally, Ruan Qingxuang felt the child in her belly kick her for the first time. This made her feel exceptionally good. She walked to Su Yun's bedside, picked up Su Yun's hand, and placed it on her belly, hoping to let Su Yun feel the child's movements. To everyone's surprise, Su Yun, who had been in a coma for nearly half a year, actually slowly opened his eyes after a few kicks. When Su Yun opened her eyes, Ruan Qingxuang did not realize it at all. She did not look at Su Yun. Instead, she grabbed Su Yun's hand and searched for the little foot that was kicking around in her stomach. At this moment, Bai Xiaoye pushed the door open and walked in. She saw Su Yun open his eyes and look at Ruan Qingxuang while touching Ruan Qingxuang's belly with his hand. She couldn't help but exclaim. She almost dropped the fish head fungus soup in her hand that she had stewed for Ruan Qingxuang. Ruan Qingxuang didn't know that Bai Xiaoye was shocked at Su Yun. She thought that Bai Xiaoye was shocked at her. She smiled and said, "The little guy in my belly kicked me today. I'll get the child to kick him a few times. Maybe he'll wake up." Ruan Qingxuang didn't know that her joke had come true. Bai Xiaoye pointed at Su Yun and said incoherently, "He's awake. He's already kicked. He's really kicked awake." Ruan Qingxuang's jaw dropped, and she turned around in shock. Su Yun really woke up. Within 3 minutes, the news was sent thousands of miles away. Everyone who was paying attention to Su Yun's matter was notified. Almost at the same time, everyone began to rush to Yanjing. However, Su Yun lived in the Dragon Brigade after all. They couldn't let everyone in. Zhuo Meiyan reacted quickly. She used an entire morning to find a house that could be moved in. Although the housing prices in Beijing were ridiculously high, for the powerful Sky Entertainment Group, it wasn't difficult for them to buy a villa with a few floors and a few hundred square meters in a wealthy residential area in Beijing that was located in a good location. As a result, many people who had wanted to see Su Yun for a long time came. Chong Zi and the others who had been with Su Yun for a long time, as well as the artists who were close to Su Yun in the Sky Entertainment Group, all rushed over. Even though Zhuo Meiyan had considered that many people would come here and bought a rather large villa, it was still not enough in the end. When everyone came to wait for Su Yun to move out, the 3 floors of the villa and the courtyard were all filled with people. Even Ling Feng and the other 4 came from all over the world with flower baskets. In short, all of Su Yun's friends were there. However, what they heard when they rushed here was not good news for them. Su Yun had woken up, but he had completely forgotten who he was. He didn't even recognize Ruan Qingxuang, who was pregnant with his child, and Yu Meiren, who was his childhood sweetheart. He had also forgotten the brothers who had gone through fire and water with him in the Dragon Fury team. He had no impression of them at all. Su Chen and Wan Guangxiao knew very well that this was the huge aftereffect of the inner demon's outbreak. It would seriously affect Su Yun's memory system. However, this wasn't a bad result for them. At the very least, Su Yun had woken up. Su Yun had woken up. To them, this was already an extravagant wish. Anything else was beyond their reach. However, this didn't mean that they would give up. No matter what, they wouldn't give up. There was no doubt about that. It just meant that they didn't feel the greatest psychological pressure at this time. Guagua had completely given up on training and everything else. She just wanted to stay by Su Yun's side. She firmly believed that she would help Su Yun find his memories. This was because every time Guagua called Su Yun Uncle Superman, a familiar expression would appear on Su Yun's face. This was the first way Guagua addressed Su Yun back then. After Yu Maren understood the situation, she realized that Su Yun's memories had to be found at that time. This was because Su Yun had left Yanjing to Hadong to adjust to the aftereffects of his inner demon's outbreak. Perhaps Hadong was a blessed place for Su Yun. Perhaps that place was the best place for Su Yun to find his memories. Many people agreed with Yu Maren's point of view. Everyone supported letting Su Yun go back to Hadong to find his memories. This was the most beneficial for Su Yun. With everyone's support, Chong brought the first batch of people back to Hadong. Before they left, Chong called Xiao Fei, who was in charge of the Hadong medicinal cuisine chain store, and asked him to immediately restore the store to its original decoration and style. Xiao Fei told Chong that the store hadn't been touched. This was because many old customers liked to eat medicinal cuisine in such an atmosphere. Although the medicinal cuisine chain store was making money now, Xiao Fei didn't dare to touch the store privately. Chong was very pleased to hear that. After they rushed back, they had to prepare for a rehearsal immediately. This was Guagua's idea and arrangement. This clever and strange girl still had so many ideas. She wanted Chong and the others to go back and find good extras. When the time came, they would play the role of the fourth wolf gang and bully Ruan Qingshuang. This method could have a great effect on stimulating a certain extent. This was what happened when Su Yun and Ruan Qingshuang met for the first time. Guagua believed that this could stimulate Su Yun. Although Chong and the others had to take the risk of being beaten, they still agreed to Guagua's request without hesitation. They promised to solve the problem of the extras as quickly as possible. Zhua Meiyan said that if they were afraid that the extras were unprofessional, they should call her immediately. She would arrange for a group of people from Qingdao to come over as soon as possible. In order to help Su Yun regain his memory, everyone was well prepared. In the end, Bai Xiaoye was the only one who took Su Yun to Hadong. On the way, Su Yun asked her why she was there. Bai Xiaoye told him that he had made a big mistake. If he didn't leave Yanjing and come to Hadong, he would be court-martialed. Su Yun also said seriously that he would rather go to the court-martialed than become a deserter. Desertion was a disgrace to him. Bai Xiaoye had no choice but to take Su Yun to the medicinal cuisine store as soon as possible. She wanted Su Yun to notice the store and then leave. As expected, Guagua's method was effective. When Su Yun arrived at the medicinal cuisine store, he couldn't help but say, "I'm so familiar with this place." Chapter 4103. Just as Su Yun was wondering how Bai Xiaoye had disappeared, he suddenly heard a shout from not far away. "What are you doing here again?" The shout was so familiar. It was as crisp and pleasant as a jade bead falling on a plate. It was so special that Su Yun could not help but look for the source of the voice. Although Ruan Qingshuang was pregnant, the aura she exuded was still as enchanting as before. Although she no longer had her slender waist and innocence, she had a more gentle and beautiful charm. Her skin was still as fair as before, and her facial features were still as exquisite. Her beautiful eyes were still a little melancholy, but this melancholy was no longer because of those hooligans. The melancholy now was because of Su Yun's memories. Chong was standing on Ruan Qingshuang's right, and Kong Zhong, Lu Feng, Dan Hongning, and the others were surrounding them. Su Yun was still the same Su Yun who did not like to meddle in other people's business, but he would not miss the chance to play the hero and save the damsel in distress. Su Yun walked toward Ruan Qingshuang without hesitation. "Sister-in-law, please help me. You're the only one who can help me now." Chong tried his best to make himself look miserable as he begged. He knelt on the ground in front of Ruan Qingshuang. His professionalism as an actor was better than all the other idols and goddesses who were looking for stand-ins. "I'm not your sister-in-law, and I don't have the money for you to continue gambling. Leave at once, or I'll call the police." Ruan Qingshuang tried her best to make herself look angry, but her angry expression was so beautiful in Su Yun's eyes. As soon as she said that, the surrounding actors began to whisper among themselves. Chong ignored the strange gazes around him and continued to beg, "Please don't, sister-in-law, you can't leave me to die. Just this once, this is the last time, please help me. Just this once." I swear. Ruan Qingxuang tenderly shouted, "Don't bother me anymore. Last time I helped you pay off your gambling debt, we're even now. You said it yourself." At that moment, Su Yun had already walked into the crowd of extras. Ruan Qingxuang bit her lips as tears welled up in her eyes. This scene was so similar to what happened back then. However, she no longer had any fear in her heart. For Su Yun, she could do anything, even if she had to be an actress. The director Guagua and the investors Wei Meiyan couldn't help but say in unison, "It's such a pity that my mother, your mother, isn't an actress." After the two of them finished speaking, they looked at each other and laughed. Su Yun suddenly walked out of the crowd of extras. "How much do you want? I'll give it to you on her behalf." Ruan Qingxuang's tears flowed down her cheeks when she heard the conversation that was exactly the same as it had been in the past. Guagua couldn't help but raise her fist. She knew that her method would definitely work. This was Su Yun's memory from back then. Su Yun walked over to Chong with a smile. Chong trembled a little because Guagua had told him that back then, Brother Yun had sent that bastard flying with a single slap. Who wouldn't be afraid when he thought about how he was about to receive such a slap in the mouth? You want to pay her back?" Chong asked cautiously. "That's right." Su Yun nodded. "Tell me, how much do you want?" 20,000. 20,000 is enough." Chong was so nervous that he forgot his lines. Zhua Meiyan and the others on the second floor frowned. "Chong can't do it, he has no talent at all. He can't get into character at all. He's already not bad as an extra." "Only 20,000? Su Yun acted like it was too little. "How about I give you 100,000? "Really?" Chong knew that he was about to be beaten, so he couldn't smile at all. He didn't put himself into the role of the rogue Lve Bao at all. "You're really my brother. You can't give it to him." Ruan Qingxuang was very happy. Su Yun was already in character. This was the Su Yun of back then. She believed that this method would definitely work. If Su Yun couldn't get his memory back, she would rather keep acting like this. Ruan Qingxuang believed that sooner or later, Su Yun would realize that he had experienced everything. He would definitely get his memory back. Su Yun smiled at Ruan Qingxuang and gave her a reassuring look. He smiled and rubbed his hands. He turned to Chong and said, "Take it." Chong quickly clenched his teeth and prepared to receive Su Yun's slap. He thought to himself, "Brother Yun, I'll do my best for you until I die. If this slap really disfigures me, I'll accept it for the rest of my life. But you have to be responsible for finding me a wife." However, even though Su Yunluan's palm was raised, he didn't slap down. The slap stopped in front of Chong. Su Yun, who had always been a man who didn't cry easily, had red eyes. The moment he waved his hand, all his memories surged out from the depths of his heart. At this moment, Su Yun was really moved beyond his control. His memories came back, and he understood everything. Everyone had put in so much effort for him. Su Yun's memories of being in a coma for so long came back bit by bit. He remembered everything. He remembered that when he was in a coma, Ruan Qingxuang helped to wipe his body, Guagua told him jokes, Bai Xiaoya fed him chicken soup, Cho Yun made him fruit juice, Zhua Meiyan gave him pedicures, Fan Shuanger fed him pills, and everything that everyone did for him. Yu Meiren participated in every consultation. Su Yun remembered everything. Not a minute or a second was missing. Chong's tightly shut eyes slowly opened. Seeing Su Yun's hand in mid-air and Su Yun's red eyes, Chong instantly cheered. Ruan Qingxuang also burst into tears at this moment. Su Yun's face revealed his unique smile, with 30% evil and 70% elegance. That's right, this was Su Yun. "Dad, my mom is pregnant." Guagua, who was on the second floor, opened the window and shouted downstairs, "Sister Yu Meiren has done a checkup on her. It's a boy. In a few months, I will be an elder sister." Su Yun raised his head and looked upstairs. All the familiar faces were there. Su Yun silently thanked all the people who had done so much for him. I didn't expect that I would support the national policy so much that I would directly ask for a second child. Su Yun's gaze fell on Ruan Qingxuang again. In a jeep a street away, Wan Guangxiao was driving with Su Chen, who was sitting in the passenger seat. He sighed with emotion. I say, your fate is too good. It hasn't even been a year since you came out of that damn place, and you already have a granddaughter and a grandson. Not bad. It can't be helped. Our son is so capable. Su Chen laughed loudly. Yu Meiren has already given me the most accurate estimated date of delivery. Hurry up and drive me to Kunlun Mountains, Jiyin. I want to ask for the best name for my grandson. Wan Guangxiao sucked in a breath of cold air. Not everyone can remember the name Jiyin came up with. But you're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.